Okay, hey, welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have another great update for you from the brand Archimede. They were founded back in 2003, and they're basically one of the Ickler brand's watches. And Ickler itself was established back in 1924. And of course, Archimede is known for aiming to offer high quality models and affordable price points. So really great from that perspective, and not something you always think of when you think about German watches. Typically, you think of something a little bit more high end, more high cost. And I think that is very cool in terms of one, the Ickler brand's lineups, but Archimede in particular being a very nice sweet spot in terms of functionality and affordability. Now, this particular type of watch is a chronograph. Some key common characteristics and design language when you're looking for a chrono. Typically, you're going to have external pushers to activate timing functions with multiple subdials to measure elapsed time, often featuring additional scales dependent on the subgenre. Now, this watch also falls into that kind of everyday outdoor adventure watch. And when you're looking for a watch like that, you're going to want something that's sporty, legible, tough, and capable. And I think their whole outdoor line really kind of hits all those marks. But in this particular case, the Outdoor 41 chronograph on the hardened steel bracelet, man, it is just a do-it-all everyday adventure watch. And then you also get those chronograph capabilities, which is just awesome, guys. So at the time of recording this, the price on these, excluding VAT, is 1,560 euros, excluding the VAT again, and then it's €100 add-on for the hardened stainless steel bracelet. Or if you wanted to go for just the hardened stainless steel bracelet separately versus being an add-on, it goes for €201 about separately. So this thing is really nice. I'm really excited to share it with you guys. I've had my eye on it for a while. You guys remember the Outdoor 41 anti-mag that I reviewed a while ago. I love that watch, still wear it to this day, but this is really taking it to a whole new level. So with that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. Okay, guys. This thing is a real looker, and that's one thing I really enjoy about it, is that it hits a lot of points in terms of things that you like about German design, things that you like about chronographs, things that you like about adventure watches. But it doesn't, it's not an homage watch by any means. It is absolutely, something of its own. It's doing its own thing, and it has a very distinct look, which I can absolutely appreciate. Are there other options on the market that can do something similar? Absolutely. But I think at this price point, at 1,500 euros, it's pretty tough to beat something like this, especially when you consider that it does have the hardened case, and then you can also add on the hardened stainless steel bracelet. So really great from that perspective. And then just the look at these pushers, guys. Look at the bevels on the triggers there for the chronograph. I mean, they are just magnificent. I mean, it's just so well done. The lines, the brushing, it's very rough and tumble and rugged, but also has just that kind of German, sterile, just minimalist action going on. And I'm here for it, guys. I can absolutely appreciate it. I know the likes of Zinn and Damasco, in terms of, German adventure chronographs, really get a lot of press. But I'm happy to share this one with you guys, because for me, this is kind of my pick. Now, in terms of the the details on here, the case is 41.2 millimeters in diameter. It's only 13.8 millimeters thick. I know that it might appear thicker when you look at it here. It's completely a play of a visual, just because the lug to lug is so extremely short. The lug to lug on here, guys, is only 46 and a half. So with it being shorter like that, it makes it appear more stout. But I will tell you, this is absolutely a very thin chronograph. I mean, literally under 14 mil. I mean, my SPB one for a dive watch is thicker than this, and people praise that watch for being extremely wearable. So don't be fooled by the side slab and the very short lug to lug, just making it appear a bit thicker than it actually is. I think this side does a better job of kind of showing you the thinness, because it doesn't have just the slab side. You're also getting the crown guards, the crown, and the pushers kind of breaking up those lines visually for you. But I mean, when you compare it to the thickness of this clasp, I'm not sure if anybody's ever seen this clasp. It's, I should say, and thought to themselves, that's a overly thick clasp. I mean, this style of this V buckle clasp has been, you've seen this style used across many watches, and you can see even by the way how thin it is when it matches with these links here, that it is not overly thick, and the thickness is, you know, I think really well balanced there. So again, guys, it doesn't have a bunch of undercutting or anything to make it seem shorter, but it is, I mean, again, at the end of the day, it's under 14 millimeters thick, and it is a mechanical automatic chronograph. So if you guys know your chronos, you'll know that that is pretty darn thin. Now, it is all stainless steel, Ichler hardened stainless steel, and it has essentially a hardness of 1200 hardness Vickers. So very nice from that perspective. You're getting a flat sapphire crystal with inner AR coating, and you can see it is just really well executed. It doesn't show the AR coating, you know, it's not like there's a bunch of flashes of purples and blues there. You can see, even as I reflect it directly on the studio lights there, you're not getting any flashes of color, which will tell you that when you wear this out in the world, typically it's going to just appear very clear and legible, and it's going to have a type of dial that you feel like you can just reach into and touch with your finger. Now, in terms of this bezel, it is really nicely done. As you can see, it's a fixed bezel. The pushers here are not, they don't have to screw in or anything like that, which is great. The crown does screw down though, and it is signed, you can see, with the Archimede A there. Quite nice. And this is a really, in terms of like tactile engagement, this is a really fantastic crown, and it's something that carries over from the standard model, the three-hander that I have, again, personally within my collection, that I just enjoy so much. And I'm glad to see that again here. In terms of what's powering this bad boy, although you cannot see it because it has a solid case back, it is an automatic ETA 7750 Elaboré grade, so it does the job from that perspective, and is something that, yeah, I mean, you're going to typically expect that movement within a watch like this. Now, in terms of that dial, guys, let's take a close and look at that. Wow. It's just clean. I love the asymmetry about it. It's just very Spartan and sparse, and just, you know, it just has that minimalist, purposeful layout to where, yeah, there is a good amount of information and data on the dial, but it doesn't feel cluttered, it doesn't feel crowded. It just feels like it's everything that's there is what needs to be there, and anything that doesn't need to be there isn't. So I dig that. You're getting also, you know, along with that matte black dial, you get these printed indices and painted hands. You get the date at 3 o'clock there. You get BGW9 Super Luminova, so it's gonna glow really great. Water resistance to 20 atmospheres or 200 meters, guys. So that is fantastic. Yes, you have a screw down crown, but the fact that they're able to develop that on a chronograph with pushers that don't screw down, I mean, that tells you that the tolerances on this is just pretty outstanding. This bracelet, Ichler hardened stainless steel, 20 millimeter lug width, and then it kind of flares out about to 23 down to 18 in terms of the links themselves. So very nice taper from that perspective, helps it look very refined. It has that kind of 3-link oyster style there, screw pin connectors. So just what the doctor ordered from that perspective. Nice milled clasp, but very clean, nicely signed, beautiful brushing execution, all milled throughout. You're going to get double locking because you're going to have the triggers as well as the fold over there, and it is all hardened. So it does its job, and it sure looks like it. So let's go ahead, get this piece on the wrist and see how it wears. Okay, as you can see on my 7¼ inch wrist, this thing wears beautifully. It just does its job. And look at that. Look how flat that wears on the wrist. Guys, this is an automatic chronograph. I mean, I have chronographs that are 16 millimeters thick. So the fact that this comes in at under 14 at only 13.8, and it's just, oh man, it is a joy to wear. Those extremely short lugs really help it stay centered and compact on the wrist. Feels quite balanced with the offset of that nicely milled clasp underneath. Really beautiful, guys. And as you can see, it just wraps and hugs the wrist really well. That articulation and that drop down from those short lugs helps this just lay on the wrist. There's not a lot of daylight. It's not sitting on top of your wrist. It is really hugging your wrist, which is great. Now I'll go ahead and actuate the timing function. Ooh, beautiful engagement there. You guys can see sweeping away. I tried to synchronize that with the seconds hand there on the sub dial so you guys can see how everything matches up. And yeah, it's a beautiful thing, guys. Some of you are feeling like, man, there's so much dead space in that 3 o'clock region. Why didn't they put something there? Maybe the Archimede A or something from that perspective. I don't know. I feel like I kind of felt that way at first, but the longer I looked at this watch, the more I realized that open space there is kind of its signature. It's not in a way that it's signed and there's a signature there, but signature to this look, I think, is that asymmetrical layout and that void. It's about leaving the space open. I think that really gives it its accent versus trying to manually accent it by putting a, some type of signature there. You can see Archimede Germany text down at the 6 o'clock. Really unobtrusive, out of the way, very, very cool from that perspective. Yeah, so I don't know, I'm digging it, guys. I think it just looks very, again, it looks German. It just has that aesthetic to it, and I appreciate that. And let's go ahead, just for fun, bam, right back. So with that, let's go ahead, charge this baby up, get some Lume shots, low light transition, and closing thoughts. Okay, we'll go ahead and hit the lights. I did re-engage that chronograph seconds hand to give you guys a little bit more visual play as we get to the last piece of the segment. One thing I do like to enjoy while we do these great Lume shots, which kind of every channel does, I like to make things a little bit different by adding a little bit of low light transition, because you're not always going to be out in a field enjoying direct sunlight like my studio lights can kind of mimic during most of the segment. So yeah, I want to see what this thing will look like in less than optimal lighting, because you're going to be coming in and out of buildings, walking underneath overhangs, underneath the shade of a tree, maybe just spending time in your favorite automobile. So it's nice to see what these finishes, these textures, what these colors render like in less than optimal lighting, even to the point of, let's say, some harsh, high contrast lighting like you're going to see here, which typically would expose any level of, defects in the finish, but you can see that the light just glides right off this brushing quite beautifully. Now, is it luxury level brushing? Absolutely not, but it is by no means just kind of slap together tool finish, working type finish. This is a very fine brushing job. They did a beautiful finish on it. I like that the hardening, technique that they use doesn't affect the kind of color of it. It still looks beautiful, like stainless steel, nice and bright. And man, look how legible that dial is, even in just look at that mixed lighting. I'm surprised by how well the contrast sits on those subdials. And then of course things can kind of tend to disappear here once you get into the darkness. It's BGW9, it's not C3. So, but the nice thing is that in daylight, it's going to appear visually quite white, versus having any green tints or anything like that. So that's where you kind of get your trade-off. So you're not getting ultimate brightness, but you are getting something that is quite long lasting, and really just bright enough in terms of just doing the job. So very, very handsome from that perspective. And we'll let this continue to run as I run through my closing thoughts here. On the wrist, guys, it feels like a purpose-built sports watch. So while there is heft, there's also some clear care for wear ergonomics in terms of that very short, stubby case, the relative thinness. I mean, honestly, guys, if this thing was just a three-hander and was this thick, I wouldn't be bothered. I mean, it would feel like it fits the bill as this tough 200-meter diver slash everyday slash outdoor, but also still legible enough to be a pilot in the sky type of watch. You also, I didn't even touch on the fact that you get that great sloped chapter ring, adding even more information, but breaking it up the silhouette in a way that it doesn't feel crowded. Again, that's something that I personally tend to look for, and I should say look out for in terms of chronographs, the way that it displays all of the different information and making it all kind of mesh within the theme and the execution overall. So I can really appreciate that, just from looking at it, reading it, interacting with it as just a timing tool. In terms of model variants, you can get, of course, the 41 anti-mag. You can also get it in the Titan model, which is titanium or stainless steel, as previously reviewed. There's also the Outdoor 39 project as well, which are stainless steel models as well. So there are quite a few variations of this watch, this being kind of the top dog, since it does have this great movement and it does help set itself apart by being a chronograph, but a clean one, guys. Like, look at that. It's a thing of beauty. So, while some people might be drooling over, a Porsche design, or an older kind of Zen motorsports style watch that also German and also following a similar aesthetic, for me, something like this just jumps out as being ultimately one, more versatile, because of the style isn't tied to a particular genre. It's not a motorsports watch. It's something that is really just an everyday timepiece that happens to have all these things. Could you wear this with a pair of driving gloves and you could use it out on the roadway and feel like it fits as you jump into your 911? Sure, yeah, absolutely. Could it also be something that you wear on a hike and you check the time out at the top of a mountain? Absolutely, as well. Could it also be something you do some water sports with? Yes, again. And then, yeah, even as a traveling timepiece, as a dedicated pilot, it has that ultimate legibility there. And then again, the timing functions very, very useful. So I can't get over how versatile this watch is. And it's not vanilla. That's the thing that I think really separates it. It's not just versatile because it's so plain. It is purposely versatile in its design. Like, it didn't do this by accident. It did it on purpose. And I think that's something I really, really appreciate. So it resonates with me from that perspective. Now, in terms of comparable models, yeah, there are a couple of fellow German brands like Zen or Damasco that play within the same realm, but they honestly cost significantly more and will typically have this exact same movement. And you are getting this for, you know, a fraction of the price. And this is fully hardened, even after you pay extra to get a hardened bracelet to go with it versus the standard non-hardened bracelet that comes with it. You're still getting a crazy deal. It's still much less. So it's just Archimede, man, Ickler brands, they do special things, and this is one of them, and I'm really happy to share it with you guys on the channel. So bottom line, Archimede's Outdoor 41 Chrono just might be one of the most capable tool watches on the market. And you know, if you want to argue with me about that in the comments below, feel free. And if you don't and you just want to share your thoughts, please do that as well. So if you like the video, please do hit like, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.